still struggling with guilt for cutting off my family after my mother asked me to get an abortion so I can keep funding their lives.
Oh,
I posted this a few weeks ago, but my post got removed. I know this is a subreddit for mostly mother-in-laws, but this is about my family, my mother specifically. Basically, I grew up the black sheep while my younger brother was the golden child. If you haven't heard the phrase golden child, it's basically where one sibling
mm,
gets treated
yep.
better
Oh,
than
well,
the others.
yeah, I've
Yeah,
definitely heard that.
basically the opposite of a black sheep.
Yep.
Typical stuff like no money for my birthdays or education, but suddenly there was money for him. They missed my college graduation because he had a baseball game, that kind of stuff. A few years ago, my dad had some health problems and had to retire early. I started helping out financially with medical bills, but then came the emergency loans I was never paid back. Then the could you cover the electricity bill just this once? Over the course of a few years, I ended up paying most of their bills monthly, plus part of the mortgage. This all blew up when a few weeks ago they invited my husband and me to a family dinner where they asked me to take out a huge loan to invest in my brother's latest business idea. They had recently found out I was pregnant, and I told them I couldn't take on this debt and I actually needed to work with them about reducing the amount of money I was giving them because my priority was now my future child. They screamed, told me I was dead to them, and kicked me and my husband out. About a week later, my mother asked to meet and told me that she and my father had discussed that now is not the time to start a family until we were all financially stable. She told me it was still early on and I had options. I couldn't believe she was suggesting I terminate my pregnancy just to keep funding their lives. I stood up and left. So I cut them off, I blocked them all, and stopped all payments. Recently, my mother got a notice that the electricity bill is past due. She's told family that I've abandoned them, and I'm getting nasty calls from relatives telling me I'm selfish. One cousin called me to ask what was going on. She told me that my mother's telling everyone they've hit a bit of a rough patch and asked me for help, and I told them to figure it out themselves. I told her that was not what happened, and I've given them over $60,000 in the past few years. Since it was just a few days before we decided to announce the pregnancy, I confided in her that I was pregnant and my mother wanted me to terminate so I could keep giving them money. She was appalled. So she asked if I wanted her to tell everyone the real story, and I told her not to bother. They all saw how I was treated my whole life. They believed my mother's lies and ridiculed me without even asking my side. They showed themselves to be no one I needed in my life. A few days later, we announced our pregnancy on our socials, and the next day, that same cousin sent me a screenshot of Facebook. My mother somehow found out we announced, most family was by then blocked on all platforms, and made a passive-aggressive post about how the people you love the most hurt you the most, and how her daughter is going to keep her grandchild from her. My cousin replied to it, the same grandchild you told OP to abort so you could keep draining her financially. Apparently, the entire family is going at it now. Some of them want to reach out to me but can't, and I just don't care. I'm that cousin. That's me. OP also means original poster, so it's talking
Okay.
about the person who made the post. I started therapy a few weeks ago. I still refuse to be in contact with them, which makes me feel horrible, even though I know it's right for me and my family. I also refuse to give them another cent, and I feel so much guilt because I know they'll probably lose the house. My brother will never step up. My parents are too proud to downsize and try to live within their means. They're both healthy now and still young, late 50s, and there's nothing keeping them from working full-time jobs. Dad is still retired and my mum works part-time. I keep telling myself that I'm not doing this to hurt them, I'm doing it to let my child have what I never did, but it's tough because the years of conditioning to do more, to finally feel loved is still there. Sorry for the long rant. That's devastating.
Yeah, it is. Maybe she should have cut him off a bit earlier, I think. I don't know why I can't contemplate why she was funding them in the first place.
So you let people take advantage of you if you think it means they might love you.
Yeah, I don't know how to comment on that one. She should just keep them cut off, and the rest of the family maybe not. You know, they don't know what's going on. They're only getting one side of the story and that, but you know, they didn't try to contact her to get her side of the story anyway, and just believed the mum. Yeah, I don't know. I can't realise why you would want your own child to fund your bills anyway and your lifestyle.
See, I think that's coming from your own Catholic guilt
Yeah,
of feeling like a burden on anybody.
yeah.
Like the idea that you would ask any one of us to abort a kid.
No, that's just, you know, there's different situations but she's in a relationship, so
Yeah, there are definitely better circumstances than
yeah,
others,
yeah,
but
she's
you
in a
being in a
relationship.
financial
She doesn't
bind
have
would not be
no,
the issue in
no,
question.
not at all.
Like with the
That's
family,
just sad, really.
yeah,
To have her funding even her brother's, you know, brother as well. Where's he? Why can't he work? You know?
It's kind of how the golden children work. No matter how they behave, they're always kind of taken care of to the nth degree, so they never actually learn any self-sufficiency.
Well, that's weird. I can't I can't relate to any of that at all.
Yeah, well, I would hope not. But when it comes to the family, it's like OP did say that the family have noticed how she's been treated in comparison to her brother, like their entire life.
I would have to see it. I don't know how they couldn't have and just take her side in the first place.
Well, once you're an adult, like I feel like when I found out about my disabilities, there were still times there where it's been made quite clear that even from like the sibling side of things, they can't reframe how they view me in relation to this new information because it was so cemented from all their experiences with me growing up, me being the problem even when I'm not, or the assumption that if something happens with me, either it wasn't that big of a deal, or I deserved it, or I'm lying about it, or it's me blowing things out of proportion. Like, it's so easy for people to fall into that belief based on the experience I've personally had with me that they had prior to knowing that there were these other things at play.
Yeah.
So when you've been thinking one way about a person for so long, it takes a large active amount of effort to kind of reframe your thinking. And it doesn't happen passively. It's an active process. You've got to put an actual lot of work into when it comes to reframing how you see them and your immediate thoughts and feelings about them and whether or not they're accurate or not. And everyone's just so busy that people don't bother doing that. So if this OP has been the black sheep their entire life, then it's quite possible that, like a bunch of people who knew me growing up, it made sense what the mother was saying based on everything that they'd seen and experienced and heard when OP was growing up, that reframing that, it just wasn't a thought that crossed their minds. There is an update. Many thanks to the community that gave me so much support and advice when I posted a few months ago. Long story short, for the last few years, I slowly ended up covering my parents' bills and mortgage while they funded my brother's lifestyle. When I discovered I was pregnant, my parents suggested I have an abortion because a baby meant I'd need to lower my financial commitment to them. I went no contact immediately. And I'm still no contact with my parents, my brother, and a chunk of the family that took their side at first before finding out the real story of what happened. Honestly, it feels like a huge weight is off my shoulders. I've even worked with a doctor and slowly come off Zoloft for my anxiety now that my main source of anxiety is gone. For years, too much of my mental energy was hyper-focused on struggling to cope with my bills, their bills, and worrying if my savings account had enough in it to cover their next inevitable emergency. From what I've heard from my cousin and aunt, they turned on my brother and told him he needed to get a job and start paying rent. He got mad and moved out, which was really just him staying on his friend's couch. After a month of mooching off his friend, he got kicked out there and returned home. Still jobless and not paying rent, apparently. Oh, and the kicker, they tried convincing my aunt to tell me my father had a heart attack. He didn't. So I'd get back in touch so they could try to guilt me into restarting my transfers to their bank. I can't believe I was once so desperate for these people's love.
Yeah.
Lots of people told my parents to sell their house, pay off the second mortgage they took out, and downsize. They refused, and the bank has started the foreclosure process. Family refuses to help them because they saw how the occasional help from me ultimately turned into monthly obligation, and they don't want to fall into that trap. I honestly don't know what they'll do, but I keep telling myself that they are 3 adults capable of sorting themselves out or dealing with the consequences of refusing to do so, and my child will never know the people who wanted them aborted because they were in the way of free cash. My husband and I are enjoying the last few weeks of being a duo and looking forward to our next chapter.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, looks like she's done the right thing. Yeah, like she's on the right track.